How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Perfect Reload Weekly, where we take a look back at the week in video game news. My name is Steve, and I am joined, as always, by my favorite open box purchase ever, Christian Slater. Christian, how you doing this week?
I didn't realize you were one of those crazy people that puts their Christmas decorations up at the start of November. I can live with that. What I want to know is, why are there only 2 stockings hung up? Where's mine? Why don't I deserve holiday cheer and small candies to unwrap on the Lord's day of birth? Am I not human? Am I Dancer?
Good Killers reference, I'll give you that. Dude, you don't like me. You actively protest everything that I do in this house, so why would I get you a stocking, let alone a Christmas gift? The best Christmas gift I could give you is what do you want? You just want grain alcohol made in a tub somewhere? Like, I don't know what you want. The greatest gift you can give me is to go away. Go back to whoever sent you to punish me for all of my wrongdoings in life. Speaking of punishment, I don't even know where I'm going. I don't even know what this is anymore. What are we doing? What even is this anymore? Show about video games, probably. So let's talk about video games. So I'll be honest, it's going to probably be a little bit later of a show this week. And I know I've been saying that a lot lately, but it's just kind of, we're in that time of year where there's not a lot of announcements being made, not a lot of news happening. The large majority of big releases have already come out this year. There's only just a couple left between now and January 1st or December 31st, I guess, that are of, serious mainstream consideration, I guess you would say. So yeah, just not a whole lot going around, but found the time to fit a couple of things in to the schedule. So let's see. Let's talk about Alan Wake 2 first. So Alan Wake 2, I got the game primarily because I was very curious about all of the graphical hubbub that was going on about it, about how difficult it is to just run the game at a decent clip, even on what I would consider still modern decent hardware like a 30 series NVIDIA card, which is what I have. So I was very curious about that. Less curious about the game for a couple reasons. Not because I don't think it would be a good game or anything like that, but I don't do well with horror games. I don't like being scared, and I knew that that's kind of what it was. So not super interested because of that. I also didn't play the first one. I know what happens in the first one, but I didn't play it, so it doesn't have that resonance with me. Like, oh, I need to pick up the story or finish the story or whatever it may be. So I picked up the game to really to check it out, and I put the video up on the channel if you're interested in seeing it. And I had to fight with the settings quite a bit, I'll be honest. I know that there's been a lot of people saying like, oh, once you really get into the game and start messing around with settings, like, it's not as bad as they make it out to be. The game runs perfectly fine. And I would say I would really question those people to see what they have in their PC. Because I've been listening to, some podcasts and people talking about it online, that are prominent, video game influencers, journalists, whatever you want to call them these days. And it's like, that's cool that you're saying it's not that big of a deal, but you also made a video not that long ago about you putting like a 4090 in your PC and a top tier CPU. So I don't think you really get to comment about what it's like for people with average machines. So I think that you can definitely work the settings to a point that the game is perfectly playable and fine. And I mentioned in the video that I put up that I tried running it. So I cannot run the game ultra wide. I have an ultra wide monitor that I use for most things. It won't do it. Not that like the game doesn't have ultra wide support, it does, but it drops it to like 15 frames a second, 20 frames a second. It's fairly unplayable in that situation. So I was okay with being relegated to a windowed 1080p experience for the game. I'm honestly used to playing a lot of PC games like that for the purposes of recording to put up on the channel for, or for streaming or whatever it may be. So that's not that big of a deal, but I really, I spent a lot of time and effort getting things set up so I could play my PC games in the living room, which would require me to put Alan Wake 2 full screen on my 4K monitor. And I tried putting it in 4K and it got down to 5 frames a second. And I was like, all right, well, I don't think that that's going to happen. So I've just been sitting at my desk playing it, window 1080p, which is perfectly fine. I'm a couple hours into the game. And I'll get into my thoughts once I get past the technical stuff. But I was able to finally get it up and running full screen 4K at about 30 to 35 frames a second, which is perfectly playable. It's not ideal. When I was getting 60 frames a second in 1080 windowed, obviously that would be better, but I've got it with all the same graphical settings that I had turned on. I have it on like low ray tracing and stuff like that. And I think I'm at medium settings with a couple of things ticked to high. And it's been fine. I haven't got a chance to get it out into the living room to make sure that that's actually viable yet. I just didn't have time to do it last night when I was tinkering around with everything. But I am looking forward to seeing what it's like, because even though I didn't really anticipate going into this game being completely drawn in, I was there out of curiosity. The game is, it's doing what it's intended. Any good mystery worth its salt is going to pull you in to the larger world and the larger narrative. And it definitely has its hooks in me. I can't give like a super grand opinion on the game yet. I'm only a couple hours in, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I've only had a couple of experiences with combat. Definitely a handful of jump scares that have gotten me pretty good. I really love the mind place aspect of the game. This area that you can enter while the game is still running around you. So you really, you don't want to be doing it while you're in combat, or maybe in the potential of combat, because the game is still actively going on around you while you're doing this. But legitimately collecting clues and having to put them up on a cork board. I think she's actually just pinning them into the wall. And having that red string and tying around, it's a joke that, I've certainly made that joke plenty of times in my life, and television shows and movies and all that have parodied it. With, I think there was seen a couple of times they turn into like a game of, was it Cat's Cradle or whatever. I always love that line from Dexter, where Dexter's using the red yarn to run potential blood splatter directions across a room, and Batista walks up and goes, "Man, you must be a motherfucker at Cat's Cradle." I really like piecing it all together and doing that profiling stuff. I love the mix of the full motion video with the real actors, blended on top of the in-game stuff. I think it's really effective. I think this game has nailed a style and a feel, and I guess, to use a modern term, a vibe. It really is. It knows exactly what it is, and it's going for it pretty hard, and it's exceeding my expectations, certainly for what I thought it was going to be. I knew that they had some really neat, interesting ideas going on, but to actually see them get executed and pulled off really well in the game has been pretty cool. And I will say, even running this game not at the super high settings, I don't have the ability to run it with like path tracing or anything. This is a really, really good looking game. And this has been a year where we've had a handful of really, really good looking games. I think when we started out at the beginning of the year with Jedi Survivor, I thought that was a fantastic looking game across the board for the most part. And then to move on to, I'm just so in awe of the facial animation technology that NetherRealm has with the Mortal Kombat 1 cutscenes. I think that game is truly phenomenal looking. What Spider-Man was able to do, and then now Alan Wake. I think that those are kind of the four really big bright spots this year of just pure technical graphical showcase type stuff, and they all are kind of in it in different ways, which I think is nice. But Alan Wake so far, like, as an overall graphical set piece, I mean, it really nails a lot of stuff. I think that, if you want to get nitpicky about things, if I could take the facial animations from Mortal Kombat 1 and put them into Alan Wake, then my God, you might have one of the greatest looking games of all time. I think some of the facial stuff in Alan Wake 2 is just a little out there. There's some not path tracing. There's some eye tracking stuff where sometimes characters will kind of just start looking off into the distance instead of maintaining the eye contact with you that they already had while they were talking to you. So that kind of takes you out. It happens a couple times. You could see it happen in the diner scene in the video that I put up. But I think overall, for people that are really interested in, like, what are the games out there right now that are going to push my machine to its absolute limits, I would say Alan Wake 2 is right there. It's essentially the replacement for, like, a Cyberpunk with the psycho tuning turned on, which is still unbelievable. And that stuff really only got rolling this year. And obviously the long-standing thing of, can your PC run Crysis? I think it's just a real marvel when it comes to all technical aspects. I think the sound design is very good. Just everything that they've got going on. In terms of actual gameplay, combat solid, third-person shooter. You're not doing a lot of shooting. I've said this multiple times on the channel before that, I play most games on easy if given the opportunity. I just don't like to be super frustrated when I'm trying to relax by playing a game. So for me, enemies are going down 3 to 4 shots. You're trying to get some headshots mixed in there for sure. So it hasn't been like super challenging in that regard, and I'm okay with that. I'm not looking for that. I really want to just kind of experience the story that they have in the game, and that's allowing me to do so. It really is just a phenomenal package, and I would recommend, even as somebody that didn't play the first game, I would say don't worry about playing the first game. There are a couple of really good recap videos out on YouTube, including one done by Sam Lake, the writer of the game, creative director at Remedy. He also plays Alex Casey in the game. He does a full walkthrough of the story of all the Alan Wake stuff. So that's the original game, the DLC, American Nightmare, and the Alan Wake stuff that was in Control, which was their previous game. And, hearing it from the dude that came up with all this stuff, obviously is going to give you a pretty good amount of detail. I think you can confidently go into Alan Wake 2 with a basic understanding of everything that's going on. Because there are a lot of references to Control in the first hour. Like you run across an employee that's from the Federal Bureau of Control. So having that bit of knowledge would help, with the understanding of everything that's going on. There's a lot more humor in the game than I thought. Like Remedy has always, tossed some humor in their games, but there's this recurring. It's like a local television commercial between these two brothers that are tour guides, and then you actually meet one of them out in the world, and he's like got this guy out on a tour, and some of it's just really well done. It's really funny. It's really, really silly, and it's like you can run across this stuff in different order, but when I went to the police station in the beginning of the game, I just went directly where they wanted me to go. I didn't even think about exploring the police station because I was like, oh, we're all walking together as a group. I don't want to, maybe they wouldn't let me break off. So you go down there and you fight this demonic entity and all this stuff, and people are disappearing and all this crazy shit's going on. And then it's like, okay, well, we got to leave this police station and try and figure out what's happening here. And then I was like, oh, well, let me explore this police station a little bit. And I found the television commercial, these two Finnish people, I think they're from Finland. And they're just like, fuck the government, like punching bears in the face and all this stuff. And I was like, this is fantastic. And it's just so like, 30 seconds before you're fighting this undead, heartless, naked man in a morgue, and then it's like two dudes fighting a cardboard cutout of a bear. Like it's really well done. So yeah, I definitely recommend Alan Wake 2, even if you haven't played the first game like me. I think you'll be fine. I don't know about going in totally blind. I would say you definitely want to have some type of knowledge of Alan Wake as a character. I think you might be a little lost in sections without it. There's just some references that you're probably not going to understand. So I would recommend getting through some type of recap. But yeah, very solid game. I need to play more of it. It's gonna be one of those games that I'm gonna try and get done over the next month, so I can have a really solid opinion of it. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish it. We'll see. It's gonna be a busy couple of months coming up, but I want to play as much of it as I can. I'm filming this show actually quite earlier than I typically do, so I can have time later on to play more of it. It's definitely got me coming back for more, for sure.
Yo, this game is scary as shit. Have you seen that dude's face? It's like he's carved out of granite. He's definitely up to something. No one that handsome hasn't buried a body.
Sam Lake does have a very chiseled, defined face, so yeah, I guess I'll give you that. But he seems very pleasant. I don't think he's killed anybody. He seems like a very nice man. All right, next up, a game that is not scary and a game that doesn't have any combat of any stretch is Jusant. I put a video up as well just a few days ago, or last week at this point, on the channel, so please give that a look if you are interested. It came to Game Pass. I remember seeing it, I think it was during one of the Microsoft Showcase events over the past year or so. They showed some gameplay of it, and it had a Steam Next Fest demo that I know a lot of people dug into. I chose not to play that demo simply because I knew the game was coming out in fairly shortly after that demo event, and it was on Game Pass, so even if I didn't like it, all it cost me was the time to download it and the time to play around with it a little bit, so I didn't think too much of it, so I decided to play other stuff. But I didn't quite know what to expect. I didn't super dig into what the game was. I assumed that it did have combat of some sort, and it was just this kind of like action adventure game. But it really is. It's just you by yourself. You have a little critter in your knapsack that kind of hangs out with you a little bit. And it's pretty, so far it's a silent game aside from some atmospheric music going on. You don't talk or anything. You do find some text logs along the way that provide a little bit of lore to what's going on. I don't have a super good idea of what exactly happened in the game. It's perhaps that I missed some text logs or maybe didn't read closely enough, but from what I can tell, you were kind of in the middle of what used to be a big ocean. The water is now gone, so it's a lot of sand and all that stuff. And you're climbing this tower, and the tower is incredibly tall, and you're just trying to get from point A to point B, really is what the game is so far from everything that I can tell. I would say it's more closely related to a puzzle game because you need to figure out how to get up there. It's not as simple as just always going up. You have to go into the tower and around the tower and all this stuff and try and find ways to get up. And eventually you get like a grappling hook and all these different things. And, sometimes you need to swing around to gain momentum to jump farther and all this stuff. You have a stamina meter that's always kind of ticking down. You can click in the left thumbstick to recover some stamina, but once you get on flat foot, or like stable ground, flat-footed on stable ground, all of your stamina will just refill. There's no leveling up. There's no power-ups or anything like that. That stamina meter is just static. It is what it is. If you run out, you run out. It's the way the game goes. I don't think there's a way to die in the game. I have fallen and nothing of any consequence happened because I was connected via my rope to something else. I just kind of swung around a little bit. But it's definitely like kind of you against this environment trying to figure out the best way to go. I will say I've gotten lost a couple of times. I had to go on a written guide is going to do nothing for you in this game. I had to go and watch like a full walkthrough of the game and just kind of figure out, like scrub through the videos. I don't want to spoil anything and just be like, okay, I think I'm here, and then watch how people kind of figured out how to go. There's a couple of times in the game where objects that you can grab to continue climbing are not super apparent. Most of the time they are. I would say 95% of the time you know exactly what you need to grab onto in order to move forward. But there's a couple of times where there's some cracks in the tower, and you wouldn't think that you could grab onto them, but you can. So it's just like, oh, I didn't realize I could do this. Well, now I know. And, you kind of take that knowledge and go from there. I'm actually, where I'm at right now in the game, I'm stuck again. So I need to look up how to get to where I need to go, because I've spent probably a good half hour at the point that I'm in the game, and just, I have no clue how to move forward. But I'm really enjoying it. I've heard varying things about how long the game is. The full walkthrough I watched to figure out where I needed to go was like 2.5 hours long, and I think I'm at least 2 hours into the game. I don't think I'm near the end, so I'm assuming that this person had a very optimized run through the game. Maybe did not do any exploring. There's some not collectibles, but there's some things you can find throughout the game. I've heard anywhere between like 3 and 7 hours. That's probably sounds a little bit more realistic. I would assume, I don't know. It's divided into chapters, but I don't even remember what chapter I'm on. I might even still just be on chapter 2. They're fairly lengthy. Maybe I'm further along than that. But then you run into some different aspects of the world around you. There are times you're just like the sun is beating down on you, and you'll get a little pop-up saying like, hey, it's really hot out. So if you stay too long in this bright sun, your stamina is going to drain even further. So now you kind of have, the onus is on you to move faster and to get where you're going. I've heard that there's snow later in the game, so maybe the snow would make your stamina drain faster, or maybe it just makes you move slower, who knows. But I'm really curious to see more of the game. I think it's a really, really nice looking game. I really like the art style. It's very cartoonish to a degree, very comic book. It looks like this is one of those things where, like, I don't mean this in a derogatory sense or anything like that. But it looks like a graphic novel, but not like, I say that, I'm trying to best convey what I mean. Like a self-contained graphic novel that was from Europe, and it was done by like a renowned artist and won a bunch of awards. Like, it looks, it's kind of got that look to it. It looks very like prestige. Not just like, your filthy American comic books or anything like that. It plays really well. You're using the triggers to, you use your left and right hand to grab onto things. There's a couple of times where you should be able to grab onto something, but you can't, because you have to use your other hand to kind of like replace one hand to go to the other, even though animation wise you could see that your hand can reach all the way there to grab onto it. So that's a little strange at times, but other than that, I don't really have any complaints with it. There are a couple times where I got stuck on geometry, but I was able to kind of wiggle my way out of it, which was good. I was able to kind of self-correct and move on with going along my path. But yeah, with this game being on Game Pass, I highly recommend it. It is out on PS5 as well, I believe. I'm not sure how much it is. It is on Game Pass PC and Game Pass for Xbox. I would say off the top of my head, it's probably a $20 to $30 game. Actually, you know what? We have the power of the internet. Jusant PS5. $25. I think it's worth $25. If you weren't getting it for, technically for free, I guess say free is bad with Game Pass, and no additional financial cost via Game Pass. I would say $25 is perfectly fine for this game. I think that it is well worth that price tag. But yeah, Jusant out now. Videos up on the channel if you want to check it out. But I highly recommend just diving into it on your own. Just download it, give it a go. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You're going to pretty much know what that game is within the first 15 minutes. There's not much more to it than just, the additional exploring and different environments you're going to get into. So, yeah, definitely recommend it.
I know you said this game is beautiful, but what's beautiful to me is watching you play this game spread eagle on the couch in your underwear as your mouth hangs open. It's like a slightly higher IQ version of Idiocracy.
Yeah, I don't really do that. That's more of a you thing. I'm not sure why you have underwear. You're not wearing underwear right now. You put it on. I don't know if that makes you just feel prettier or what. Maybe it's strictly a comfort thing. Who knows? But yeah, that's I don't lay around in my underwear. It's ridiculous. It's such a silly thought. But that's pretty much it for everything that I played this week. Like I said, I've been super busy. I'm getting, the classes I've been taking. I'm at the part now where I'm taking practice tests and all that stuff to get ready for my final exam, which I actually need to go take in person because I've been doing all this stuff online. I decided to do everything online instead of doing it in person because there's no way I was going to have time to do it in person. So, yeah, doing it online, and it's gonna be busy coming up. So the amount of time I'm gonna have to devote to games is not great, but I was glad I was able to play what I could. But coming out this week, which we will have coverage for both of these, on Thursday is Like a Dragon Gaiden: Man Who Erased His Name. That's coming to Game Pass. And then on Friday, probably the last super big release of the year, unless you count the Avatar thing coming out next month. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. The reviews have come out for the single player campaign because if you pre-ordered the $100 version or whatever, you got to play the campaign early. It is getting torn to shreds. Apparently it's only about 3 hours long. They basically just take the multiplayer maps and it's very little going on with it. It's pretty rough, not well written. The whole deal. IGN really tore it to shreds in their review. They give it a 4 out of 10, which I thought was hilarious. I have a mixed relationship with the Call of Duty campaigns. I always try to play them a little bit. I've beaten some and given up on others. This one will probably be the first time ever, honestly, that I don't know, maybe out of perverse curiosity, I'll check it out. But I plan on just jumping right into the multiplayer. So I'm not getting that game early like I got Spider-Man early. So I'm not getting it until Friday morning. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I think I'll probably do like a pre-recorded video like I typically do, but I haven't done a live stream in a while, so maybe Friday night we'll stream it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with it, but rest assured there will be coverage of some kind for Modern Warfare 3. But that's going to wrap up what I've been playing, and we'll be back in just a moment with the news. All right, we are back with the news. And like I said at the top of the show, not a ton going on, but a couple of interesting things happening. Microsoft, our favorite topic this year, because at times this definitely seemed like a Microsoft or Xbox specifically podcast. But Xbox is banning unauthorized controllers and accessories, which is odd. But I guess they have their reasoning. So this is going into effect on the 12th. So that is what, Sunday? Yeah, it's Sunday. So they said that it is for safety and security reasons. This is the quote that a spokesperson for Microsoft said. It's confirming that the ban is going into place. They're not backtracking as of right now. Says the ban is going soon into effect, like I said, on the 12th, for performance, security, and safety. Microsoft and other licensed Xbox hardware partners' accessories are designed and manufactured with quality standards for performance, security, and safety. Unauthorized accessories can compromise the gaming experience on Xbox consoles. Players may receive a pop-up warning that their accessory is unauthorized. Eventually, the unauthorized accessory will be blocked from use to preserve the console gaming experience. They have a full list of supported devices available on their website. So the reason why this is kind of a big sticking point for a lot of people is it really impacts the fighting game community, specifically people that use like the Brook gaming converters. The Brook gaming converters, this is what I was trying to get for my PlayStation back during the summer when Street Fighter 6 came out, and I ultimately wasn't able to get one. They were in very high demand. They kept selling out. I ordered, I think, 3 of them, and none of which were able to be delivered. I eventually just got my money back. But what it is it basically allows you to take a fight stick that you may really like, really enjoy, that isn't technically designed for that system, and allow you to use it. So I have a fight stick that I can use on PC and Xbox, I believe it is, but I cannot use it on PlayStation 5, so I ordered the converter that would allow me to do so. The converter works perfectly fine. Like I said, I just wasn't able to get one. So Brook Gaming put out an update on X saying, "Dear gamers, we extend our heartfelt appreciation for your unwavering support and interest in Brook. We find it necessary to share crucial information with you regarding our Xbox console-related products, which may encounter functional disruptions in the near future. The two big affected products they list are the Wingman XB2 converter and the XB fighting board. Partial functionality affected the UFB fighting board, UFB Fusion fighting board, the Resolution steering wheel adapter, and Resolution 2 steering wheel adapter. So it's beyond even fighting game stuff. Wheels are not going to be working. It said, they go into the pop-up message that people got. They say, we deeply regret any inconvenience this may cause you. It says, please trust that we will spare no effort in identifying potential solutions. Once further updates become available, we will promptly notify you through our official community platforms. So Xbox has kind of done some weird stuff like this before. So when the Series X and the Series S came out, it was very easy to install apps if you access like the dev mode of the system and paid their little fee to kind of get into that. You could backload stuff like RetroArch and use a bunch of emulator stuff on there. And then they had put out an update that took away the functionality to do that, but then they kind of backtracked it and put it back in, so now you can do it again. So it's possible they backtrack on this. I'm not sure. It sounds like what they're trying to do is get people to... These are specifically wired controllers for the most part. They're trying to maybe open things up for wireless. I'm not quite sure because I'm not super well versed in doing a lot of this stuff because I don't really have a need to... So there's an article from Kotaku from Ethan Gatch. It says, many players have pointed out this new policy could be one way that Microsoft is attempting to crack down on manufacturers of Zim and Cronus Zen adapters, which help players modify their controller inputs to cheat in popular online shooters like Warzone and Rainbow Six Siege. It says at the same time, the blanket ban will also mean that lots of cheaper off-brand controllers and custom gaming accessories will no longer work on Xbox. And there was a tweet from Maximilian Dude. He's a fairly well-known YouTuber, covers a lot of fighting game stuff. He says, heyo, and then tags a bunch of people that work for Microsoft. This is essentially a death sentence for local fighting game community events that run on Xbox, much less others that can only afford one arcade stick. The Brook Gaming fans, that's their account, Brook Gaming fans. Their converters are not cheat devices. They're a huge boon to the FGC. Please reconsider. So it's getting a lot of attention. They have a history of making these kind of broad sweeping changes and then walking them back. There's another story. I didn't really feel the need to cover it in depth, but like a benefit for working for Microsoft was that you got Game Pass for free. They announced that they were going to take that away. Employees immediately started reaching out to Phil Spencer on Twitter, and they're like, why? Like, what the hell? Like, why? And then they backtracked it almost immediately. This was like over and done with like within a day of a couple days ago. So, I mean, it is entirely possible they do this. Maybe they could work with Brook in some way to like give them an exception for their devices or something like that, because they are very obviously not cheap devices. We'll see what happens. I imagine this week, if anything is going to happen, we'll probably get an update this week. If you don't hear anything this week or next week, I would say that this is probably here to stay and is probably, just sucks. And that's going to force people to circumvent Xbox security in a way, the very thing that they are trying to prevent people from doing in order to get their controllers and their fight sticks and all that stuff to work. So I think it's a pretty big misstep on Microsoft's part. I understand the sentiment behind it. You don't want cheat devices to work on your system. You don't want things like that to be allowed to work. I understand that, but you can't just throw away one thing and have it adversely affect this other thing that really isn't causing any harm, and just be like, well, casualty of war, I guess, this thing that is very helpful for a lot of people, you're just not gonna be able to do anymore because, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. Like, I think that's like a really just kind of a cop-out way to handle things in this particular situation. So hopefully they turn around, hopefully they get it figured out, because that would just lead, if this becomes permanent, then Xbox has no place in the fighting game community anymore, and it's just gonna, like, why bother running a tournament on Xbox, unless the game was Xbox exclusive for some reason. So I don't know, kind of weird if you ask me, but hopefully they get it all sorted out.
I think you should be able to plug in whatever you want, wherever you want. Pretty sure they call that free use.
Cool. That explains my Google search history on my phone. All right, next up, an acquisition, because we love a good acquisition around here. Atari is acquiring Digital Eclipse. So Digital Eclipse is really blown up. They've been around for a while, but they've really blown up the past couple of years. Thanks to some of the games that they have done, and really kind of specifically, they did that Atari documentary, the Atari 50 that came out last year, and then they just did that thing on Karateka or Karateka. I never could figure out exactly how to pronounce that. It was their what was the name of it? They're calling it like their Gold series or something like that, where you could play the game, but then they also produce this like feature quality documentary to go along with it, which is exactly what they did with the Atari 50 thing. So this seems like a pretty good pairing, and I've seen a lot of people online saying like, oh, I can't believe Atari, like what's the point? Atari doesn't do anything. Well, Atari has been under new ownership for a couple of years now. They've been making some very interesting moves and very interesting acquisitions, and they're really trying to fix some of the bizarre stuff that has been going on with Atari for honestly the past like 20 years or so. They've come out with some really interesting games. I thought Mr. Run and Jump that came out this year was an absolutely fantastic game. Probably the best thing Atari has done in quite some time. Atari also recently picked up Night Dive Studios. Night Dive, they have done a lot of remastering old games, making things work on modern systems. They did the Turok stuff, the Doom 64 stuff. They did the System Shock Enhanced Edition. They have a bunch of other remasters that they're currently working on. So I think that makes sense. I think this new Atari push to kind of work on classic game remasters, classic game documentation with like that Gold Series stuff that Digital Eclipse is doing, and then also doing like getting into like what Digital Eclipse has been doing on the game development front, where they did like the Cowabunga collection, the Street Fighter Anniversary collection. They did that Disney Classic Games collection. Like they're really trying to do, I guess, what they can in a way to preserve retro games. And I think having that Atari branding with it is very fitting. I'm excited to see what they do going forward. I want to see what that next game that's going to get the Karateka treatment with that Gold Series stuff from Digital Eclipse, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff that they can they can cover. Obviously it might be difficult with like rights and stuff like that. I think there's the wonderful book Masters of Doom, which chronicles the founding of id Software and all their work that they did on Quake and Doom and all that stuff. And I would love to see that turned into like an actual documentary, but with the rights to Doom, I think now belonging in the Bethesda family, which is now part of the Microsoft family. I don't know if they would actually be able to do that. Maybe they could, because they were just talking to the people involved, but they also have that gameplay side of things. So I don't know if Microsoft would allow them to put out a version of Doom or something like that, or maybe they just release it as a documentary. Who knows? But they really have a lot of possibilities with the direction they can go in, and I think this is kind of going a long way with Atari kind of getting back some goodwill and fighting off a lot of the negative connotations their name has had for a while. So I hope that this is the first of many steps in the right direction. I have a very close association with Atari. It's the first video game system I ever played was the Atari 2600. I still love the Atari to this day. Honestly, if you really hard pressed me, and asked me like, what is the greatest video game system of all time? Super Nintendo, Atari 2600. I might honestly go with the Atari 2600, because the total lack of technical know-how for a lot of these people. They were trying to figure this stuff out. They were forcing themselves to learn these brand new things. They were inventing new things all the time, new techniques. None of these people had experience with designing video games, because video games didn't really exist much before, the 1978 when the 2600 came out. The amount of inventiveness in games, a lot of those 20th Century Fox games were like pushing the limit of what that system could do. I think that probably swings a lot of points in the favor of it being, to me at least, the greatest system of all time. I think it has one of the strongest library of games out of any system ever. And I have so many fantastic memories with the Atari systems throughout my life, not just my childhood. I spent a large amount of time in my 20s when I was actively collecting retro games, spending a lot of time playing Atari games. So yeah, I hope this does well for Digital Eclipse and they're able to do bigger and better things because man, they have done some really impressive stuff over the past couple of years. So going off of the news from last week, which I don't think I covered, Bungie had big laid off about 8% of all of their staff, and they now have a statement coming out. So this is on its website. I don't think it's credited to any particular person from Bungie. It's just a statement that was from the company as a whole. This is from Andy Robinson's article on VGC. It says, Bungie called this week one of the most difficult in its studio's history. They acknowledge that it lost a lot of players' trust with its recent Destiny content. It does seem like the final shape, the next big piece of Destiny content, is delayed. So the statement goes on to say, this has been one of the most difficult weeks in our studio's history as we've parted ways with people we respect and admire. We spent this week supporting one another, including those who were at the studio, as well as friends and colleagues who no longer are. We want to acknowledge the feedback and concerns you have about Lightfall in recent seasons, as well as your responses to the reveal of the final shape. We know we have lost a lot of your trust. Destiny needs to surprise and delight. We haven't done this enough, and that's going to change. The statement continued, to us, the path forward is clear. We need to remake the final shape. We need to make the final shape an unforgettable Destiny experience. And they continue on with some stuff about this. So from what's going on behind the scenes, none of this has been necessarily super announced, was apparently Marathon, their next big game, the first game after the Sony acquisition, which Sony showed off in that trailer. Apparently it is not play tested well and people are not feeling great about it, and it has quietly been delayed behind the scenes. Sounds like the final shape is being delayed another few months. It was supposed to come out in February. It looks like it's going to be coming out in June. It says that apparently they were told that no layoffs were coming, and then 2 weeks later the layoffs hit. They did them at the end of October, so that way when November started, just a couple of days later, they wouldn't have to continue paying benefits and stuff. That's a common tactic with a lot of companies that do things like that. I do believe they do have severance packages, at least some people. I'm not positive. This article doesn't say that one way or another. But it's sad. I was never a Destiny player. I played Destiny's alpha, like very early on before the game was actually even released. Played the alpha, and I thought it was really neat. I would have loved to have played the game if I had people to play it with, but I don't really know a lot of people that play video games, or at least the same video games that I do. And the people that I do, they got lives going on. We all have lives going on. It's not super easy to coordinate time to play a continued experience like that. Like, I'm sure we could all coordinate, hey, one night we're going to play a couple hours of Call of Duty. That's probably feasible. But hey, every other night we're going to play 2 hours of this, ongoing shooter RPG. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. So, I hope Destiny turns it around. I know a lot of people are still to this day big Destiny fans, and it's still quite popular, but it really does seem that Destiny has become a game that is kind of in maintaining mode, where they're not really interested in making the big moves to acquire new players. They're just kind of there to maintain the player base that they have developed that has stuck with them for some time. But maybe they were able to turn that around at some point, but honestly, it's probably going to be a while before they're able to do that. I think it would have to take like Destiny 3 would have to be the thing. Remember when they said Destiny 1 was going to be the only game they ever had to make and they wouldn't ever have to do a sequel for like 10 years at least or something like that, and then Destiny 2 came out not long afterwards. Remember all that? But yeah, so hopefully those people can find jobs, but it's getting to the point in the video game industry where there are so many layoffs and they are happening so frequently that there's no way that all of those jobs can be filled. I would say that probably very few of a lot of these people that have lost their jobs in the video game industry this year are going to actually get another job in the video game industry. See a lot of people abandon the video game industry and just go work in some tech job somewhere because that's the only place they can get a job with the skill set they have. So yeah, it's a difficult business to get into, and it's an even harder business to stay a part of. So hopefully everybody can try and find some positive out of all of this. Last up this week, typically I don't cover previews because I don't get preview copies, so it's, I don't have any gameplay first primary source experience with or anything like that, but this does concern my favorite game of all time, the previews for Super Mario RPG, the remake on the Nintendo Switch, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. Came out, and it seems like a lot of people really are enjoying it. So the big takeaways I saw was it's actually a new translation. So some of the dialogue has been changed. There's a new menu system. There's auto saving in the game, which I'm pretty happy with auto saving. I think that's probably pretty good. I hope you can turn it off in case you want to backtrack on something. If you're not familiar in the game, there's specifically save blocks you jump on and then you can save the game. And then there's also stat tracking, which I think is actually kind of cool. Actually track how many jumps you did with Mario's jumping attack and all that stuff. That's pretty cool. It kind of provides you incentive to, do better. But Kotaku has a big roundup of other websites kind of thoughts and feelings on that. It's pretty positive across the board. A lot of people are saying that they are really enjoying the graphics, and there's some people are saying that the graphics from the Super Nintendo didn't really age well. Those people are high out of their fucking mind because that's one of the nicest looking games ever. Not just for a Super Nintendo. That game is tremendously impressive, even for today's standards. It's an incredibly good looking game. I'm actually not super big into the look of the new one. It's just a little off to me, but I will admit it does look good. If this was a brand new Mario game and it was not a remake, I would say, oh, that's a very nice looking Mario game. Look at that Mario game. That's a handsome Mario game. But it's just not. It's just the same. Damn it! I don't want change in my life. I want everything to always stay the same. I want to be stuck in 1996 forever. I don't want to grow up. I don't want to have responsibility. I just want to sit around all summer vacation long playing Super Mario RPG. I'm going to try and find a way to play this game when it comes out. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. It seems like they haven't really changed the actual gameplay. So as long as they haven't done that, because I think it's the best combat system ever in an RPG, personally. That's why I like this first South Park game so much, because it pretty much adapted its gameplay systems. As long as they don't really change that, of course I'm going to enjoy the game. It's my favorite game of all time. Am I going to have gripes and nitpicks? Absolutely. But am I overall probably going to enjoy the experience? I'm sure that I will. So maybe we'll have some coverage of the game when it comes out, or maybe I'll just be crying because they ruined everything that I love in my life, and that's that's what I get. That's what I deserve, I guess, right?
Man, I hope they butcher this game. Your tears lubricate my pleasure circuits.
Well, that's my goal in life, is to lubricate your pleasure circuits. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. Yeah, short show this week. Like I said, not a lot going on. We'll see how this week goes. Obviously, we'll be playing there's 2 new titles, the new Like a Dragon Gaiden and Call of Duty, but those aren't until the end of the week, so maybe something will pop up beforehand. Who knows? I always try and keep my my ear to the ground for all the indie releases. I'm actually I need to play RoboCop. Rogue City came out. I had planned on recording. I actually got the game early. I have the game. I haven't loaded it up yet. I got the game early, and I meant to have footage up on the channel, but I was just dead tired Thursday and Friday of last week, and it just wasn't going to happen. I was just so wrapped up in taking all those practice tests and studying, and just that that needs to be the priority. So maybe we'll have some time to play some RoboCop this week and get something up on the channel for it. I guess I lied. I did boot it up to see if anything had changed. In the one thing that really surprised me is it grabbed my progress from the demo that I downloaded. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So it's actually picking up where I left off from the demo. So I thought that was pretty neat. So I got to dig into it at some point. And then the other thing I want to do is, because like I said, a little bit more than a month away, December 15th is when Game of the Year is going to be for this channel, and I'm at the point now where I am trying to get refreshed on some of the games that came out in the first part of the year. So I want to dig into more Terrascape, because it was really one of my favorite games of the year, but I played it in such kind of like a blitz that I played so much of it in such a short amount of time, and then moved on to other stuff. I really need to go back to it in and see kind of where it stands in my list. But yeah, I think, I won't talk about it every week, but I think the Game of the Year stuff this year is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be bigger than last year's for sure. We're going to be doing, last year I did favorite music as well as game of the year and awards. We were doing all that stuff and more. We're doing like a top 10 albums of the year, top 10 games of the year, all the individual game awards, all that stuff, and just try and make it fun and make it a big thing to kind of wrap up the year. But, so, stay tuned for that. And, maybe we'll have a guest on there. Maybe I can rope somebody into doing it with me. But other than that, that's going to do it for me and the show this week. Christian, anything you want to say before we head out?
I heard you muttering to yourself about Trader Joe's last night. If you're going over there, pick me up some of that bagel seasoning. Daddy likes the way it makes his tongue tingle.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've had this weird craving to go over to Trader Joe's. It's like this mystical wonderland that I never go to. I always hear about how good it is. And is it good? Should I go there? Should I get food from there? I had food there from there a couple of times in my life, but it's been a long time. Things change. I don't know where my life is going anymore. That's going to do it for me, everybody. Take it easy. We'll see you again real soon.